With the final season, final part, final episode of Attack on Titan finally coming to an end, I figured this would be the time to make a video talking about the series and specifically about the character of Eren Yeager. Eren is a character with a lot of different opinions about him, and I will be discussing his character in depth to give my perspective on his character. So who was Eren as a character then? Well, he started off as an angry and impulsive kid who wanted to go beyond the walls to seek freedom, and he also cares deeply about his friends. After witnessing the death of his mother, he swore to slaughter all the Titans and joined the Survey Corps in order to do so. Throughout the story, he often acts irrationally and gets himself and his friends in danger, but after getting some discipline, he gradually realizes that
with great power comes great responsibility,
and learns to control his anger and becomes more mature as a person. This is shown with how he learns to use his head more. So I would say this is pretty decent for a shonen protagonist. It's consistent and makes sense with the type of character that he is. But then during season 3, something weird happened to his character when he kissed Historia's hand. He seemed to have seen something, and this led to the most sudden and jarring change I've ever witnessed with his character in season 4. During this season, the usual reckless, emotional, and dumbass Eren is just completely gone now, and is replaced with this super cold, edgy, ruthless, calculative, Yagami-like type of character. It feels like a completely new character rather than the Eren we used to know. Now, it would be one thing if they actually showed how he got to this point, but instead we just have a time skip. And they did a complete overhaul on his character, and we're just supposed to accept this. He just becomes extremely ruthless, killing innocent people like nothing. Now, Eren wasn't always the most morally righteous character, don't get me wrong. But he still has his own idea of justice. I mean, he called out Annie and Reiner for killing people, so I'm pretty sure he wasn't evil to begin with. Even Mikasa questions why he's killing innocent people all of a sudden. It makes you wonder what the hell happened for him to become like this. And throughout the story, they never really showed how Eren becomes more ruthless or how he's forced to face dilemmas that forces him to compromise his moral integrity in his pursuit of freedom. It just never seemed like they were building him up to be a villain, but just rather a typical shonen protagonist with more psychopathic tendencies. Gon from Hunter x Hunter had villainous tendencies during the Ant arc, but it didn't feel like a complete departure of his previous characterization, considering the most evil thing he did was threaten to kill Komugi and destroy Pito, who was a sadistic psychopath. So it felt like a natural evolution of his character that felt believable and not just someone completely different. He also displays moments of inner conflicts, like when he hesitated to attack Pito, unlike Eren where he just kills everyone with no problem now. He's also super cold and mean towards his friends now for some reason. Just a season ago, he was still crying over Armin, begging Levi to save him, and now he's already beating him up without showing any remorse. Even if this is supposed to be an act, it still felt like a huge departure from his usual straightforward and emotional character. All I see is that the author just wanted to shock the audience by flipping a switch to make Eren evil now with no real build up towards it. And I know in the end they try to explain it, but we'll get to that later. And despite being the main character, nobody cared about him at first and only cared about Levi. Yet everyone seems to care about him now because of the sudden change. This should prove that people only like him because he's edgy now. And then we got to the path sequence, which is hands down one of the most nonsensical things I've ever witnessed. During this sequence, it turns out that Eren manipulated his dad to kill the royal family, and he tricked his brother to achieve his goal. Now, some people seem to think this was the coolest thing ever, and I was just like, what the hell is even going on? Eren just turned into a 200 IQ mastermind 4D chess player, and it just makes zero sense. Like before, Eren was always portrayed as being kinda dumb with moments of smart, similar to that of Naruto. With this scene, they just turn him into Light Yagami with his crazy master plan, and this plan completely destroys the more grounded setting of Attack on Titan 2, and just turn it into this super bizarre story. And then we get to the moment of him committing genocide, which is also another moment that doesn't even make sense with his character. While he did say how he wanted to slaughter all the Titans, his change from that to killing millions of innocent people is a huge jump and not even remotely the same at all. People seem to defend this by saying that he had no choice and it's either that or death, but they seem to ignore the intentional factor in this plan here. How Eren intentionally made the choice to kill millions on his own will. and the show doesn't even bother to delve into the psychological state of him prior to making this decision. I mean, there's a reason in Berserk why they had to build up the gradual descent of Griffith to how he got to the point of sacrificing his friends. He went through a lot of trauma and they explored his mental state at that point in depth to show the complexity of this decision, unlike Eren where it's completely glossed over. Unless you count that scene of him crying to that random kid in the flashback, psychological exploration. And the show barely develops his hatred for the outside world too, and just made it like Sasuke, where he just jumped from hating Itachi to the village in an instant. We don't get some type of build up for his hatred towards them, and there just isn't really any moment of his personal experiences during his time with Marley that made you understand why he truly hates them, to kill them all like that, which just makes his motivation feels a lot less complex and personal. Magneto, who is someone with a similar motivation to Eren, actually has a reason to hate humans, being a Holocaust survivor, and it's more complex than simply wanting to protect his people. So while he may seem more evil, at least it could be said that his motivation of wanting to destroy them makes sense and isn't super shallow like Eren. And finally we get to the ending, which is hands down one of the worst endings I've ever seen. So after everything that happened, it's revealed that all this time Eren was just putting up a facade and he cared about his friends all along. So he's basically the Lelouch ripoff. But it doesn't even make any sense for an emotional character like Eren to be able to put on a facade like that. With Lelouch, it makes sense considering he's supposed to be this deceptive character who uses his charisma to outwit others. Whether with Eren, the author just thought it would be a good idea to copy Code Yes ending, so let's just make Eren Lelouch then, ignoring how they're not even remotely the same. And at least Lelouch is consistent with his character, whether there's no consistency to be found with Eren at all. And the whole conversation between Eren and Armin in the end is just laughable.
僕は許した覚えはないぞ。ミカサの恋心を無限にしたことはどう思ってるんだ。この近くでずっとエレンだけを見てきたミカサに。まあ案外すぐにいい人見つけてあっさりくっつく気もするな。やだ。やだ。ミカサに男ができる。
Is this supposed to be the same guy who was capable of killing humanity? And by the way, Eren does not deserve this peaceful ending. Like, at all. Some will try and argue, well, but he did this for his friends, right? So it's good?
あの日、あの時、ベルトルトはまだ死ぬべきじゃなかった。だから、見逃した。
So this guy can kill his own mother, but he can't kill his friends? Him being the exact same character isn't having depth or genius. It's just completely terrible writing to justify why he just becomes this edgelord after the time skip, with no explanations. And the show explains how he's able to pull off all these master plans by showing how he was just following a predetermined path, which is another horrible writing choice that made him a complete plot device with no real agency of his own. Like he just does everything he's told and doesn't even struggle with doing any of these things, like committing genocide it seems, considering it goes completely against his values. And the fact that he's a slave to freedom might as well contradict the entire theme of the story about finding freedom. And despite the story showing how people are getting stepped on by the rumbling, it completely glosses over the aftermath of it. Eren in the end remains completely unfazed by what he did, and his friends don't seem to care either. In the end, he literally sacrificed 80% of the world, his own mother, gambled the future of paradise which led to its destruction in the end, just so his friends could live long lives. Great trade-off there. And of course, how could I forget the most legendary moment of Attack on Titan? Yes, Bird Eren. Bravo, truly peak fiction. In conclusion, Eren's character serves as a terrible example of character writing. What started off as a simple character becomes so convoluted to the point where you don't even know who he is by the end anymore. It also proves that making your character into a different one with no explanations wasn't such a good idea after all. And that's all I gotta say. Thanks for watching.